This is a desk that me and my son just got done making for him. We put it together as a little project. It's got a roll-out keyboard tray and spot for his computer. Put the whole thing together using a biscuit jointer. There's biscuits gluing the whole thing together, and there's just a few screws and some spots where I couldn't use a clamp to hold it together, so I used screws to hold it together. While the glue dried, those are covered up by wooden plugs. If anyone's interested, this is the layout of how to cut out the piece of plywood for the desk, and I'll put the dimensions down in the comments of all the pieces. Just keep in mind that the keyboard tray and the back support, both of those, the length of those is kind of cut to fit, because it may vary on how you glue it up, so it might vary by, you know, a quarter of an inch or half an inch. So I'll just kind of, you want to save those for last before you do your final cuts. First thing I'm going to do is this is a 4x8 sheet of plywood. It's got birch on one side and it actually has a paintable side on the other. This was cheaper. It ended up only being like $35 for this piece of plywood. And then I got a 1x6x8. I'm going to cut that into 1-inch strips to be able to use as facing on the edge of the plywood, so you can't see the edges of the plywood. The first thing we're going to do, clamp this up, and we'll start cutting these pieces out. Okay, what I've done now is what I'm going to use this 1x6 board first to use as a guide to help cut out all these pieces. So I'll get these pieces all cut out, and then we'll show how to use the biscuit jointer to assemble the desk. Alright, the first thing we're going to use the biscuit jointer for is we're going to put edging on the desktop, so it has a nice edge on the front. I'm not going to put it on the back because this desk is going to be against the wall. So all I did is I laid out some marks down the side on each side, and I'm going to cut biscuit holes in each one, and then we're going to glue that all together. When doing these little boards, I like to clamp them along an edge, and then I like to put some boards the same size, either scraps or some other ones you're going to cut. I like to use that as a little guide to put my fence on. Just line that mark up with the arrow, and that's all she wrote. Alright, now this is one of the side pieces, and we're going to face the front side that faces out toward the legs, or where you would be sitting. And then you'd put your biscuits in here, you'd put glue on them, you'd put them in the slots, you'd put some glue on the wood a little bit around them, and then you would put them in the slots there, clamp it all together, and you'd have a face on there, but you can't really do it one-handed. But you just clamp that in there, and then you have a wooden face, and that's how you use a biscuit jointer to put facing on plywood. Alright, now we got some of the faces gluing on, and just to point out, when you glue them on, it's a good idea to alternate your clamps, top side to back side. That'll help keep the face on there at the good perpendicular angle. And rubber mount's pretty handy sometimes when you need to tap the wood left or right to get it aligned perfectly as you're clamping it. So just a couple pointers. Okay, our next thing, we got all the face pieces on. Now we're going to go ahead and assemble it. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our shelves together and make our little CPU cabinet. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm putting a little piece of wood, clamping it on here at 2 inches off the bottom. I'm using that as a guide, and then I've marked out 4 marks for 4 biscuits. So what I'm going to do is I took the biscuit jointer, I took the right angle end off of it, so I just have a flat face, I'm just going to go ahead, take this, line it up with the marks, and then I'm just going to plunge that in at all 4 of these locations. I'm going to go ahead and move this up to 22 inches so that our shelves are 20 inches apart, and I'm going to clamp it again up here at 22 inches, make 4 more marks and 4 more cuts. I'm going to do that to each side. I'm going to go ahead and assemble it. I'll show you what it looks like. Now this is how the CPU section is looking. It's kind of dry fit. That just fits in there like that. You get your 4 biscuits. Take our other shelf. If I can raise it up. Get it lined up on the biscuits. And then it dry fits too. So then basically then you take your other shelf and you put it on top and clamp it together. And here, let me glue it and clamp it together, and I'll show you what the end result looks like. Alright, here's the CPU cabinet portion. It's glued together. I got 6 clamps on it right now. It's a little awkward to clamp together, but it's got the top shelf and it's got the bottom shelf for the CPU to sit on. You can see I don't have the wooden edge on there. I was waiting until after I got this assembled. I'm going to go ahead and after this I'll cut wooden edge pieces to fit right in there, and then we'll glue them on the face of those 2 shelves. After that, we're going to take it, we're going to put it onto our desktop. Here's the desktop. This is the bottom of the desktop. It's all prepped to be able to assemble the CPU cabinet and the side. So what we got here is 1.25 inches from the edge. We put this guide 1.25 inches from this edge, cut out 6 biscuit holes. That's going to be for one side of the CPU tower to glue in, and then added 10 inches to it, so it was 11.25 inches from the edge, and put another guide, and there's 6 more biscuit holes. So this is where the CPU cabinet's going to glue to it, and then 1.25 inches from this edge I put 6 holes for this side piece here to be able to glue down to it. I'm going to show you a quick layout of this back brace. What I did was I got a side biscuit here. I got some biscuits that go along the top, and then it pretty much ends. And then once we put this on here, I'm going to cut this to length, and then I'll cut another biscuit between it to go between it and the CPU case. So that's where you got to cut it to length. Is once you put the CPU case in there, you got to measure from here to the other side and then cut it that distance. Well, this is the assembled desk so far. I got 2 clamps on here that's holding on the wooden edge pieces onto the shelves. It's gluing them on right now. And as we look it over, you can see the wooden plugs in the desk where we had a few screws in the middle to help assemble it and hold it together. As we look down, you can see the 6-inch wide backer board going along the back there. That really helps strengthen the side piece. When this is all done, painted, we'll paint it next, sand it down and paint it, and then we're going to go ahead and put drawer slides on here for the keyboard. We're going to do that about 2.5 to 3 inches down. We're going to mount the slides, and then we'll take a measurement for the keyboard. The slide I have are 16 inches, so we'll make the depth of the keyboard tray 16 inches, and then we'll measure what's width is left and cut the keyboard tray to that width. And then afterwards we'll go ahead and we'll put a wooden edge on the front of the keyboard tray to match the rest of it. And it'll look just like the desk that I showed you beginning of the film. So that is the desk, mostly assembled by a Biscuit Jointer. Thanks for watching.